Here we are again, back at the manger. The story we've just heard, the writer Henri Nouwen says, is so simple, so crystal clear, so unpretentious, I do not have to do anything with it. I do not have to explain or examine these events. I simply have to step into them and allow them to surround me. I'll come back to Nouwen in a few minutes, and that is not to get me out of preaching a sermon tonight. Nouwen's book on prayer that's called With Open Hands, I reread this fall for the first time in more than 40 years. I probably came across it in the catacombs, which is what we used to call the Catholic Student Association hangout in the basement of the old St. Bede's. Anybody else remember that? It feels like doing sacred archaeology, going back to such things, revisiting the books and movies and people, places, experiences that formed our younger selves. And maybe noticing something that we learned or felt that has stayed with us all these years later. Now, I'm aware that some of you still are your younger selves, experiencing your first, maybe even 10th, 20th, 30th Christmas instead of your 65th, 70th, 80th, or 90th. One of the things I love so much about this night, about church in general, is that we're all gathered together here at different stages of life, from our different hometowns, ways of working and playing and loving and believing more or less in this story, in what's been handed down to us. Like the shepherds and angels and eventually the wise men, we've found our way here to see this thing that has taken place. And what we make of it is shaped by all those different experiences, the hopes and fears of all our years. What the church has made of it is well captured in this one line from the letter to Titus that we heard a couple of minutes ago. The grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. For those of us of a certain age, hearing Linus's annual reading from Luke's Gospel in A Charlie Brown Christmas was as much a part of the season as hearing it in church. And that's just one of many, many parts of seemingly secular culture that have surrounded many of us growing up and feel pretty indispensable to keeping the feast of Christmas. I'm sure some are coming to mind for you right now. Here, in no particular order, are a few of mine. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, A Visit from St. Nicholas, Eggnog, Miracle on 34th Street, Mary Chapin Carpenter's album Come Darkness, Come Light, The Nutcracker, White Christmas, Love Actually, if I'm honest, Mariah Carey, It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas episodes of The Vicar of Dibley. Anybody else into that? Okay. For my husband Warren, Die Hard has to be in there. We watched that last night. And perhaps counterintuitively, he also loves to make pizzelles, those fancy Italian waffle cookies. I make gingerbread men and Lizzie's, a fruitcake cookie my mother used to make. Because it's not just popular culture that surrounds us at this time of year, right? It's the layers and layers of our family cultures, too. The memories, good and challenging, of Christmases past. And so for many of us, the season brings an ache of missing those who are no longer around the tree or the table. Maybe also missing the younger versions of people who still are there, or even of ourselves. And at the same time, that remembering can also bring a strong sense of gratitude that our loved ones, the lights of the world in their generations, existed at all, that our lives intersected, for however long or short. In tonight's collect, our opening prayer, we make a bold claim that on earth we have known the mystery of the true light who's coming into the world we're celebrating tonight. And all these people, traditions, ways of celebrating, even, I would argue, the cheesiest Christmas movies can be vehicles to help us encounter that mystery. But there's more. Here comes Henry Nouwen again. Songs, music, good feeling, beautiful liturgies, nice presents, big dinners, and many sweet words do not make Christmas, he says. Christmas is saying yes to something beyond all emotions and feelings. Christmas is saying yes to a hope based on God's initiative, which has nothing to do with what I think or feel. In other words, Christmas is about heaven coming to earth, divinity breaking into humanity. The God of all the universe loving us so much, choosing to become one of us. Emmanuel, God with us, comes not in power and might, but in vulnerability and dependency, choosing, someone said, incarnation, not domination. And that's what we're saying yes to. However halting our hope, however daunting the promised path toward peace and justice, righteousness, God's gift and our yes to it, tentative and troubled as it may be, has implications for both our souls and our stories, our insides and our outsides, I told the kids at the pageant this afternoon. Every year, for me, there's some line from one of the Christmas scriptures or a carol that jumps out at me as if for the first time. And this year, it's a line from O Holy Night. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. That worth is inherent, it's built in. It's our birthright as beloved children of God. It doesn't depend on where we live or work, where we come from, what kind of grades we get, how much money we make. The incarnation, the Word becoming flesh, is God's endorsement of the holiness of each one of us. No matter what our faltering path coming here tonight has been, no matter the missteps that we have made, the ways we have all fallen short, we are worthy. And of course, the incarnation is just the beginning of Jesus' story and ours. He lived and died as one of us. He taught us to love each other as God loves us, to forgive, to heal, to look for God's kingdom among the impoverished, the outcast, the stranger, the little children, in places where people of all sorts and persuasions can sit down at the table together. He proclaimed God's new upside-down world, where the last are first and the first are last, where the greatest serve those the world considers the least. And after he showed with his life and death that love is greater than fear, God raised him up, because the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. So saying yes to God's gift that we celebrate tonight is saying yes to God's hope, joining God's initiative, God's project. Our yes, Nouwen suggests, means allowing ourselves to be led by the vision that has become real to us, striving to realize that new world, the first glimmers of which we have already seen. And if you look around, you can see them tonight. We're so blessed to be in this work together and to have God with us as we do it. Thanks be to God.